This is Colin McCracken here with Bryan Ryan. We're at Grimmfest 2013, and we're just about to go in to see your short film, The Gates.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if you could give us a little bit of a roundup, a short synopsis, if you will.
Well, I guess it's about a woman. It's about a woman and a strange man who breaks into her place, and I guess the night doesn't really go out either one of them plans, without giving too much away.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Well, without giving too much away, would you say that this would be a home invasion film or something along those lines?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it has portions of that. I mean, I kind of lean more towards. I guess one of my inspirations for the short was Repulsion, mostly by Polanski, which I mean, there's no denying it's a great film. But I mean, I'm sure it's inspired a lot of other filmmakers, but more so with this. But then, I mean, I grew up watching a lot of Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, things like that. And there was an episode, particularly of Tales from the Dark Side, called, I think it's called The Door in the Attic or something like that. That really inspired this as well. Kind of stuck with me as a kid watching it, and I kind of built off of that and did my own version.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that EC Comics mentality and that Tales from the Crypt mentality, it transfers really well to the short format.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the shorts, they work in a very similar way to a joke. You know, you have to build up to a very distinct punchline in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
And then, as a filmmaker, did you find that an enjoyable thing to play around with? You know, that you have this very short window in which to sort of reel them in and then give them a sucker punch before they go?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's one thing my producers and I at the time kind of talked about wanting to make it expanded into a feature, but not expanding the short into a feature, but almost doing almost like an Altman-esque or like almost like Magnolia,
Brilliant,
with horror and kind of do these crisscrossing stories. And this one being the central story of the film. But I mean, we kind of realized that Trick or Treat had done it amazingly, and we didn't want to write on the tails of that. And this, out of all the stories that we kind of came up with for it, this one really stuck with me the most, and I kind of fell in love with it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, anytime you get down and dirty and play with blood and guts and have your own monster, it's a lot of fun.
That's brilliant. And it sounds like you're coming from a really broad range of cinematic influences as well. You know, you're not just making genre for the sake of genre, but you're actually taking a fairly cineast style take on it. Would that be a fair thing to say?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think being a big part of that for me personally was getting Will Barrett as the VP, and he really knows what he's doing as far as keeping the camera moving and keeping things interesting to look at. And of course blood, and things like Hatchet, the Hatchet series and Frozen, and things like that. He was only an asset to really making this thing pop, and on top of that, the performances. I mean, the key for me was to cast actors that I loved. I loved watching, but I couldn't take my eyes off of them. The two main actors, Alicia Oxy and Robert C. I mean, I can't praise them enough. They really knocked it out of the park and made this thing made it two characters that you really care about, which sadly, I mean, is kind of, and it's kind of hard to find that in a lot of independent horror, especially, find actors that you really kind of relate to, and that's one thing we really tried to nail down.
Yeah. And do you find that as an independent filmmaker, making a short gives you a little bit more freedom because you don't have to bring an actor in for a huge amount of time? That you can just get them for I don't know, how long was the
2 days?
2 days.
Yeah. We stayed in the house. We all slept there. We got to know each other really well. We shot maybe 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
We were exhausted by the end of it, but
I
mean, we can't really complain about that because we had a blast.
Yeah.
We had a blast making it. We were happy with the result.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And working and shooting in the house must have created a nice sort of claustrophobic atmosphere, and it really must have set the pace for the film itself.
It did. We went ahead of time. We went several weeks ahead of time and did a location scout on the house, and kind of realized that we kind of discovered these are the places we want to explore for the film. But it really, I mean, I'm a real big fan of collaboration, and there were moments when actors or even people on the set would say, it'd be cool if we did it here, but what if we took that here and made that happen? And if it works, it works. And there were a lot of times when I was like, yeah, that's a better idea than me or any of the producers have, so let's give it a shot. And a lot of it ended up on the actual finished product film. So yeah, it was great. It was a nice working atmosphere. You want to surround yourself with people who want it as much as you do, and who you trust and who you just want to be around. And that really is what made it such an enjoyable experience for me personally.
That's fantastic.
I can't speak for them, but I had a good time doing it. So.
That's wonderful. I mean, when you're dealing with a short film as well, you're not generally dealing with any studio constraints. There's no outside pressure. Mm-hmm. So it can be, as you said, this collective artistic melting pot where people put in all their ideas, and you can sort of play around a little bit with it. And did you find that the idea itself changed from the genesis to the finished product?
Certain parts of it did, yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, like I was saying, like collaboration is. I'm a big fan of it. I mean, I actually come from a theater background. So you're constantly getting ideas thrown at you, and I've always been the kind of person that, with this film and the other short that I did, if you have an idea, if anybody has an idea, shout it out. I just, I have the right to refusal. If I say, no, that's not going to work, I should not have to explain that. Because there's no time to do that, especially when you're on a 2 hour or 2 days to shoot a film. But most of the time, I mean, we kind of sit around and brainstorm and have a great time doing it. And I mean, these are all people that I consider friends, after the fact, and I look forward to working with again. Definitely. Yeah, and a lot of it did end up on the finished product. I mean, there's some stuff that I never even thought of. When you were my producer, we never really crossed our minds, and then we would have Will Barrett, for instance, and say, oh, well, what about this? And sometimes they'll be like, well, now we're going to do this. Or I'd be like, yeah, let's give that a shot. And it worked. And I think that you have to go in with an open mind and things like that.
So it's a bit of flexibility.
Absolutely. I don't think it works. I mean, obviously films get made with a director working that iron fist, but for me personally, it just doesn't work. I don't think I can pull it off. First off, I'm not that personality, but I come from a place where everyone has ideas, and sometimes they are better than yours. Yeah. And so why not make them work, for the better of the film?
Yeah. And shorts are a really interesting way to get a very brief insight into the mind of a filmmaker. And I'm just wondering, have there been any shorts that have stuck out in your mind, over the last, over your cinematic education, as it were?
Short films in general, yeah.
Not necessarily genre either.
Yeah, there was one, I'm torturing myself right now because I can't remember the name of it, but it was about two guys in a prison cell. It came out recently, and they find a shoebox in the prison cell, and they open the box, and when they open the lid off the box, the lid, or the ceiling lifts off, and they realize that they're looking at themselves inside this shoebox. I can't remember the name of it, and I feel terrible because they did such an amazing job on it, and I wish it stuck with me. Besides just the actual, the way it was done. That one in particular, as of recently. And then I was a part of a contest a year ago with the ABCs of Death. They did the contest for the letter T, and there were some really great things. There's one particularly on there called T is for Turbo, that, honestly, I mean, out of everyone in the competition, I was like, that is something I'd like to see made into a feature. It was just a throwback to Mad Max and these crazy, it just reminded me of the films I grew up watching in 3D, just the terrible in a good way, throwback to films that I loved, and that one in particular, T is for Turbo. So look for it. I don't know if you watched a lot of the.
I saw a lot of the entries. I didn't see that particular one.
Yeah.
I'll search it out.
T is for Turbo was fantastic, and of course the one that won, T is for Toilet.
Lee Hardcastle's
fantastic. Yeah. That was one when I entered it. I was like, I got to go up against that one. And rightly so, he won, and because it's fantastic. So I look forward to seeing more stuff from him.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, we're really looking forward to the film tonight.
Thank you. Yeah,
we've got a fairly packed house out there, so I'm sure we'll get a great response.
Yeah.
And just in the meantime, before we finish up, where can people go to find a little bit more about your work?
Well, I mean, both shorts that I've done are on YouTube. The guest is actually on there. I don't know how much longer it's going to be on there. Then I did Trespasser, which is my T entry into the ABCs of Death. I'm also on Twitter at Real Bryan Ryan. We're actually working on a feature right now to be shot in Sweden in July. Yeah, I'm doing a Swedish language feature film. That's going to be shot in Sweden or not July, January.
Yeah, and can you tell us a little bit about that before?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, again, it's based on. I mean, it kind of comes from my love of. I mean, honestly, out of all the genre films, I have to lean towards paranormal. Being, I mean, you look at films like The Innocent.
Or, yes, the old Jack Clayton one. That's one of my favorites.
Fantastic. The Changeling. I mean, The Changeling. When I saw that as a kid, I mean, I saw that as I grew up in a house where it was okay to watch these things.
Right.
So watching The Changeling really changed me.
Yeah.
And it's very rare that you see films like that anymore, with the exception of what James Wan's doing with the Insidious franchise and The Conjuring, of course. But I kind of wanted to, put my footprint into that, and so that's what we're kind of playing around with. It takes place all in a hotel.
Yeah.
But of course, it more or less going to draw comparisons to The Shining just because of the hotel aspect. But I think it goes a different direction.
That's brilliant because supernatural films and ghost stories, although they're one of the oldest forms of sort of shared narratives, it's very hard to do them well.
Right.
And there are so few good ones, like you said, The Innocents. Fabulous example. Robert Wise's The Haunting. It changed.
The original, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, the original, of course. We don't speak of the Liam Neeson.
Take out the CG in that. Well, no, I don't even want to finish that sentence.
No. Let's go. We'll edit that bit out.
Yeah. But, no, absolutely. I mean, those are all films, and I think what really makes those strong films for me personally is not so much what you see, but what you hear.
Yeah. It's funny the way you say that you're going to be doing it in Swedish language as well, because one thing I find that when somebody is watching a foreign language horror feature, they'll be more inclined to pay more attention if it's in another language, because you can't miss a minute.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but it's true. I mean, my wife is Swedish, so I kind of. Growing up, I grew up in the country in Texas, so I grew up in a house that avoided subtitles, and then now having learned the language and really kind of falling in love with the way Scandinavian culture is. Absolutely. I never really thought about that.
I think it's a real advantage because it means people can't get up and make a coffee in the middle of it. They can't sit and check their own. They got to pay attention.
That'll work to our advantage.
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
And just the name of that again before we wrap?
Right now, it's a working title. It's called Echo of Our Footsteps.
Excellent. But we have all your Twitter details and everything else.
It'll be on there, and we're also going to start an Instagram account. I'm also at Real Bryan Ryan on Instagram, so we'll have the shoot up on there as well.
And we'll get all the updates that way.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant. Bryan Ryan, thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of Grimmfest.
Oh, I will. Thanks so much.
Excellent.